cruising the internet. I'm cruising the internet. Cruising the internet. Cruising the internet. I'm cruising the internet. Oh, baby, cruising the internet. Nothing could be finer than to be on online or on the internet. Well, I'm feeling sublime, cause I'm coming online. Gonna make my midnight run. Icon freeway, digital free play. Gonna have some keyboard fun. Mention news groups, latest scoops. Checking in with my email troops. Reach out and touch someone, making my cyber run under a mosaic sun. I'm cruising the internet.
Hi, I'm Steve Dotto, and welcome to this special installment of Cruisin' the Internet. There can be absolutely no doubt about the growing popularity of the Internet. Thousands of people from all walks of life are coming online every month, every week, every day. The rush to cyberspace is shot right past the rush to outer space. It's ironic that the question we most get from you, our beloved viewers, are not so much what to do on the Internet, but rather how to take the first steps. How to get online, how to configure your software, how to take those first faltering electronic steps into the cyber frontier. That's what this show's all about, the step-by-step nuts and bolts of how to get online. Let's quickly review the basics of what the Internet is and how we get up and running on it. The Internet is really a growing association of computers, networks, servers, and databases, all linked together and sharing data through the use of some common communication and data protocols. Now, this makes sure that all the parts of the system can recognize and access data from all the other parts of the system. The most common tasks we do on the net are search for things, browse through all kinds of files, some practical, some whimsical, some offensive, some enlightening. We can download files to our own computer and peruse them at our leisure. And of course, we can communicate with others with email. Even now I can hear you cry, "Steve, I'm sold! How can I connect up to this wonderful global treasure chest of information?" Well, it's really quite simple. At our end, we need 5 things. A computer and a modem. My modem's inside my computer. The modem lets your computer talk to your telephone. That's how you get on the Internet, over your telephone. We also need some access and client software and an Internet account. On the Internet side, we need to have an access provider. This is an Internet site which provides us access to the rest of the Internet. Some businesses provide this service to their employees, as do universities. But for our purpose, we're looking for personal access. We need to find a commercial Internet access provider, or IAP. Don't you just love acronyms? Well, get used to them. The Internet lingo has quite a few. You can find the service providers in your area through several sources like newspapers, books, and computer magazines. Several even include the client and access software. Now, we found this point-and-click Internet kit to be an excellent way of choosing a provider and getting online. It includes all the software and information we need to get online. Once we choose a provider, we need to set up an account on their system. Now, a lot of our viewers bog down here telling us they have some problems setting up their Internet account. Well, depending on your service provider that you've chosen, there are several different ways to set up accounts on their systems. Why isn't everything simple and standardized? I don't know. Why don't all screws just have flat-headed slots? Then we don't only need one type of screwdriver. Why can't there just be one way to set up an account on the Internet? Well, there isn't. Tough darts. Deal with it. But don't despair. We're going to walk through the basic setting up an account scenario for you. I'm going to install my point-and-click Internet software now, and then open my account to access the Internet, all in about 5 minutes, from the musty comfort of my own basement. On this disk is a README file, and it contains the names and numbers of many Internet service providers. So, I'll just double-click here on the Start Me Up file and have a peek. Now, I'm simply going to look through the providers listed in my area. I'll call some of them up on the phone and ask a few questions to determine which one I want to open an account with. It's sort of like picking a bank. Most of the services and charges are similar, but there are nickel and dime differences that can add up, so it pays to shop around. Now, installing the Internet software is a snap when you have a kit like this. Here we go, step by step. First, double-click on where it says Install Me. That Install Me name, it's a dead giveaway, don't you think? Next, you click on Continue. At this point, some additional information like licensing details and that sort of stuff pops up. And here I click on Continue. Then it asks me an interesting question. It asks me if I want to install it. Well, yeah, okay, so I'll install it. Then the last thing it asks me is, where do I want it installed? Right here on my hard drive is just fine, thank you. Whew, boy, oh boy, that was exhausting. I think I need a coffee or something with ginseng in it. But before I do that, I think I'll call up my internet access provider and sign up so I can find out how to configure the software and get on the net. One thing I have to do, though, before I sign up with an internet access provider is decide what my account name will be. This is my email address, so I have to come up with something to identify the account as mine. Something exotic, like my name. Some people don't want to be easily reached or identified, so they may select a name that suits their secret and obscure purposes. Now, in selecting your internet email address, you'll get your first taste of the history of the internet. Oh, lucky you. You see, the internet originated on computer systems that were in many ways very primitive. One of the legacies these systems have left is the way we name accounts. The internet doesn't allow for capitalized letters or spaces between words in an account name, so Steve space Dotto won't work. So instead I chose S. Dotto. Pretty snappy, huh? Just call up the internet service provider now. Oh, it's ringing. There.
Hello, Internet Service. Can I help you?
Hello. I would like to open an internet account on your system.
Oh, great. Just a second here, and we'll have you up and running in no time at all.
All right.
I'm cruising the internet.
Your internet access provider should provide you with some or all of the following addresses and information.
Worship at the modem shrine, on the road at the speed of light. Email, free mail, out of sight. Nothing can be...
Thanks for your help. I'll call you if I have any problems. Yep. Bye now. Now I have all the information I need to configure my access software. There are two different types of tools we'll be using today, access and client tools. Access software is the underlying software that allows our computer to communicate with the internet. Mac TCP and PPP is our access software. It opens a data link to our service provider. Once this link is open, we can then use our client tools to do things like send and receive email, download files, or search for information. Now, in order to configure this software, I need to open Mac TCP from my control panel. First, I select PPP in this window. This tells the Mac that I want to use a PPP or point-to-point protocol connection. Now, you notice that my system also has an Ethernet option here. That's because I have a direct network connection from my basement here. Are you jealous? But for this case, I'm going to use the PPP or dial-up access. Now I click on More. And then I select Manual. This allows me to change the settings in this file. Now I type in the gateway address that I've been given from my internet service provider. Then I click on Domain, and I type in the domain name. And then I move over to the IP address, and I type in the IP address that they've given me. And I choose, in this particular case, a Class C device. Go back to Server, click OK. Oops, I forgot one thing. Heh, I have to click on Default. If I don't click on Default and it doesn't work, it would only be my fault and not anybody else's. Oh, that's funny. Okay, then I click and close it. Now, the Macintosh needs to be restarted in order for these changes to take effect. The good thing on news about all this stuff is that although it seems a little complicated at this point, it'll become much, much easier in the future. Now we need to configure and open our config PPP file to set up our connection. So I'm going to double-click on the pointed click Internet folder and open PPP, the config PPP file. I double-click on it to open it. And this is the actual control panel that we'll use to open our internet connection. But we have to tell config PPP what number to dial and what our password is, those sorts of things. So to do that, we'll create a new config PPP file, and it asks for the server name, and mine is called Whimsy. I type that in and say, OK. and then I can configure it by clicking on the config file. The first thing is port speed we set. This is our modem access speed. With modern modems, you really want to set it at the very top speed that's allowed, and the modem will automatically configure to the maximum speed it can. Now, with my particular modem that I have in this computer, I'm going to choose CTS and RTS. If you've got a 14.4 modem, you can probably feel that this is probably going to work for you. Check with your internet service provider if you're not sure. Then I have to dial in the phone number, and I'm going to do that here. And that does it for the phone number. Next comes the modem initialization string. That's what actually configures our modem. And if you're not sure what it is, you can always just leave that blank. Next comes authentication. Now, this is where we put in our email name and our password. Don't tell anyone it. Top secret. And we're done. And now, it's the moment we've all been waiting for. It's time to go online. Here in my config PPP, I click on the open, and all the preparation we've done now comes into play as our modem opens our internet connection. It's establishing. It's authenticating, and we're in. So now what? We're online, but what to do? What to do? Well, our in-depth Dotto demographics show us that generally, the first thing people like to do on the net is send and receive email. And the most popular program for doing that is called Eudora. Don't ask me why. Let's set up Eudora and send our first message. When we open Eudora, in the first place we need to go is under the Special menu and choose Settings. Here we find the personal information we need for Eudora to handle our email. The POP account stands for Post Office Protocol. This is where you type in your email address. Next is where you put in your real name, so that if you're sending mail to people, they know it's really from you. Next, we choose hosts. And here, under the SMTP server, I put in the name that my internet service provider told me was their mail server. And I say, OK. Now you're ready for your first email message. And I've actually got a little favor to ask of you. I kind of feel like we're already friends. I mean, I have helped you with your PPP after all, and that's just not the sort of thing a stranger does. So I would really appreciate it if you'd send me your first message. Nothing too fancy, mind you, but I am curious as to why you decided to get on the net and what you hope to do on the net. To send me, or anyone, a message, you choose New Message under the Message menu. Now, the top of this message, or header, contains all of the administrative information that this email needs to get to the recipient. I type to, and that's where we put the person who we're sending it to. And I'll send this to my producer asking for a raise, to Jeff G. at whimsy.com. And then you notice that the from is already filled in with my email address. You can add a subject, raise, because this is pretty darn hard work. I think I deserve one, don't you? Then you can also carbon copy or blind carbon copy it. Plus, you can attach documents to the message. So I'm going to write my message here. I need more money. And then I'll sign it with Steve. There we go. In order to send this message, all I have to do is click on send. And off it goes, sending a message. Easier than licking a stamp, I can tell you that much. I guess the most difficult thing is remembering all the addresses you'll need. And Eudora helps us there. You can save the addresses in the nickname section here under the window menu. In order to create a nickname to remember the address, I just click on New. And here I'll type in the address. This is one that you might want to do along with me because this is my email address. If you want to call it S.O as the name, then you want to type in my email address. Because remember, you're sending your first message to me. So it's SDOTTO, and then you use the @ whimsy.com. That's my email address. Now it's saved, and if I'm creating a new message, I just have to click the To button down here at the bottom, and all of the addressing is done for me. Now, and there are other cases where we're responding to someone else's mail who sent email to you, and you can really simplify this addressing procedure by simply choosing the Reply selection under the message menu to their email, and all the addressing is done for you with the header information in place.
I'm cruising the internet.
Open Eudora and compose your letters offline, then go online to send them. This way you won't be wasting money by composing your letters online with your service provider's meter running. The growth of the internet can be attributed to many things, but the establishment of the World Wide Web, or just web to its friends, is one of the main growth factors. You see, the web creates a way for us to browse the internet in a point-and-click fashion, making it much easier to surf the net. We don't have to remember oodles of annoying command. And remember, when you're dealing with the internet, there are like oodles of commands. The most popular web browser is Netscape. Now, I want to show you Netscape, but you don't have it on your system yet, do you? Hey, no intersweat. Let's just go out on the net and grab it. Actually, let's fetch it using Fetch. Now, Fetch is a file downloading application which allows us to get files from remote locations called hosts. I open Fetch, and now I type where I want Fetch to go and find the demo version of Netscape. The address here is FTP, or File Transfer Protocol, that's the site, at netscape.com. Many FTP sites are set up as public services that allow us to download files. These public sites usually have us sign on as anonymous, but I will enter my email address as a courtesy to the site so they know who I am. And I click on OK. Now, this is the best part. Look at this little puppy dog here. He's going out, and he's fetching the file for me. And there it is. He's already brought up the directory, and I simply navigate through the Netscape directory to the Mac files. Then I select the version of Netscape here, which is in a compressed form, and ask Fetch to get the file. And Fetch is now asking me where to install it. I say save the file, and now Fetch is going out and bringing the file, this copy of Netscape, to me. Now this is a good time to have a cup of coffee, because even with a fast modem, there's about a 45+ minute download happening. Good. It's done. The development of the World Wide Web has made the internet a much friendlier place for most of us. Using a web browser like Netscape opens access to whole new worlds of content to us with a simple click of a mouse. Now, in order to use Netscape, we should set up a few things right off the bat. When I first launched Netscape, it opens a page on the internet. Actually, it opens Netscape's home page. Now, you can later change where Netscape opens to, but this is a great place to start. We see the basic navigation tools we use in Netscape represented by these icons at the top of the page. Now, the colored text in the body of the document represents hot links to other documents or pages. When I click on them, I invoke a process which opens the related document that the author of the page attached to the text link. Now, I can also at any time use the navigation tools or the menu commands at the top of the program. The first thing that I like to do is change the way I see these tools to smaller labeled buttons. So I, under the Options menu, choose Preferences. And right off the top, I say, Show Toolbar as, I just like text. Now, what that will do is recapture some of the real estate in the main screen for me by making these buttons smaller. I want you to notice the Help available here under the Help menu. There's no need for a manual when you have the kind of excellent online support represented by these items. Next, I'll configure my mail and news servers. I'm going to enter the same information I entered in Eudora, so Netscape knows where my mail server is, and enter my news server address as well. Under the Options menu, I choose Preferences, and here I just follow the little blanks through and fill in the information. My mail server, my name, I know that. My email address, and my organization. I can leave that blank if I want. And then my news server address, which is news.whimsy.com. And I say, okay. Now that I've configured Netscape, I'm ready to start to use it to cruise the net in grand style. I should explain briefly at this point how Netscape allows you to navigate the net. There are coding systems that sites on the net recognize and respond to. The World Wide Web uses one called HTML, or Hypertext Markup Language. It allows us to create a point-and-click document which users can access by simply clicking on a button or piece of text to get the information that we are making available. Now, the people at Netscape Corporation give us a great head start on using the web through their homepage. They point us to new information, interesting new sites, and offer technical support here. Under the directory menu, I find what's new and what's cool. Under what's new, we see some of the new interesting sites that are out there on the net. Every day there are dozens and maybe hundreds of new internet sites being listed on the web, and this is a great place for us to find what the new sites are and also what the cool sites are. I always check that out to see what the hottest new thing is on the web. Now, one thing that you're going to want to do big time on the net is look for stuff. You know what academics call research and your neighbors call snooping. There are several search engines available to us to help us find what we're looking for. But be warned, it takes some patience and skill to find things on the net. I click here on Net Search, the button, and it opens a page where we have several of these different search engines I was talking about. Now, the one that I like to do is called Web Crawler, but everyone has their own favorites. Try out a few. Now, it's getting close to supper time, and I might be looking for something new to have for dinner, and I'm thinking pasta sounds pretty good, so I'm going to look for a recipe for pasta here. So I'm going to type here in the search criteria, pasta, and ask it to search. What Netscape is doing here is warning me that I'm sending information out on the net, which people can access and just want to, be careful. It's we should be careful whenever we're sending information out on the internet. Here it's come back with a whole bunch of responses to pasta, and the top one is called the Pasta Project. That sounds like something that I want to get into. I give it a single click. That's one thing Mac users have to remember about using Netscape is we just have to click once to invoke a process as opposed to the double click, which comes a little more naturally. And it's opening up the site. Wait a minute. What the heck is this? Welcome to the Pasta Project. It's a research project between universities. It's got nothing to do with eating pasta. Remember what I said about how it takes a little bit of skill and patience to learn to find stuff on the net? I think this is a prime example. I'm going to go back to my internet search page here, and I'm going to give it a little more criteria. I'm going to put in recipes, comma, pasta. Now let's see if it comes up with something a little more edible. Research stuff under pasta. Now we're cooking with gas. Here, look at this. We have a cookbook index here. I click on that. It says it's a kind of an experimental server, but there's recipes to be found here. And there's a guest book. And we can search for all sorts of different things. So I can look under P for pasta. Bingo! Pasta with all sorts of different sauces. I think I'm in a little bit of heaven. You know something? Now that I found this site, I want to remember where it is. This brings us to one of the most important features of Netscape. We can create a thing called a bookmark. This is stored in Netscape so that we can return to this site anytime by selecting the bookmark from the menu. Now I just go here, add bookmark. Now you see under this menu now, this title, the one that we just are at, under the pasta, is now there so that I can return to this site at any time. Now, over time, you'll acquire many bookmarks, so Netscape allows us to sort them in this dialog box under different headings. And this one here, under pasta, I'm going to move up and add to my entertainment bookmarks here because I like to use pasta when I'm entertaining. Now, sometimes when you find a site that's interesting to you, you want to let a friend know where it is as well. And Netscape allows us to send email from within the application, although it doesn't allow us to receive email to Netscape. If I found something great like this page here, I simply go into the File menu, choose Mail Document, and I address my communicator who I want it to go to. And I'm going to send this one to my producer, Jeff at whimsy.com. See, I'm going to send him this to kind of suck up to him, give him something, I've asked him for a raise earlier, so now I want him to do this. And this sends the address to him, and I simply click Send. And now it's using the information that I put in earlier in my mail server to now mail this document to Jeff. The great thing about Netscape is that it enables you to explore vast reaches of the internet with a single digit on your mouse button. Spend a little time trying different things. Go boldly where no cybernaut has gone before. Check out the online help and basically have a blast. If you find something that totally blows you away, drop me a note. You have my address. Enjoy Netscape. It really is the epitome of traveling first class on the internet.
I'm cruising the internet.
Parents, you wouldn't let your children play on the highway unsupervised, and the information highway is no different. Make sure that you watch what they're doing and pay attention. The most opinionated and by far the busiest area of the net is the news groups. This is where people gather to discuss everything under the sun. They might more accurately be called interest groups or discussion groups. There are literally thousands of news groups covering every subject from the sublime to the unmentionable on a family show. We'll use a program called Newswatcher to go out and check them out. The sublime ones, that is. As with our other programs, there are a few preferences we need to set in Newswatcher in order to use it. And when we open Newswatcher, we're prompted by a dialog box to enter our news and mail server addresses. And then I'm prompted to enter my personal information and my email address. Now what's happening is Newswatcher is going out and getting a list of the news groups available from my host. One last thing about news groups. They really are an open and public forum with all the good and bad that entails. Don't post a comment on the news groups unless it's something you want read by tens of thousands of people who can also get your name and email address from the post. I hope that this show has helped you understand how to get on the internet. I'd like to offer special mention here to our sponsors for this show, Apple Canada. You know, I'm still fascinated as I click on a link in Netscape and see in the dialog box that I'm flying thousands of miles and hooking up with a site in Belgium or Japan. Even more impressive is that I'm beginning to understand what a global community really is. I have stuff in common with these people all over the world and share with them. I hope that you share my wonder of the internet. If you do, be sure and drop me a note that I mentioned earlier, because if I find out you watched this show, got online, and didn't send me a note, well, let's just say I wouldn't want to be in your cyber shoes. Besides, it gets kind of lonely down here in the old basement with the just me and my modem. Thanks for joining us. I'm Steve Dotto. Bye now.
I'm cruising the internet. I'm cruising the internet. Cruising the internet. Cruising the internet. I'm cruising the internet. Oh, baby, cruising the internet. Nothing could be finer than to be online or on the internet. Well, I'm feeling sublime 'cause I'm coming online. Gonna make my midnight run. Icon freeway, digital free play. Gonna have some keyboard fun. Catching news groups, latest scoops. Checking in with my email truce. Reach out and touch someone, making my cyber run under a mosaic sun.